tonight's real story. First, let's go back to Ron Paul, congressman from Texas, former presidential candidate. Congressman, let me give you the quote that you said on the floor of the House July 9th. You said, I have days growing more frequently all the time when I'm convinced the time is now upon us that some big events are about to occur. These fast approaching events will not go unnoticed. They will affect all of us. They will not be limited to just some areas of our country. The world economy and political system will share the chaos about to be unleashed. What do you think those big events are?
I think you alluded to what I'm thinking about earlier on, and that has to do with a crisis, and you brought up the inflation in Germany. The dollar, everything is done on the backs of the dollar. If we need money here, you know, and we tax to a degree, then we borrow, then we print the money that we need, and the value of the dollar must go down over a period of time. But the dollar has held up relatively well in the last 35 years. Since 1971, there's been no backing of the dollar, and we've been able to get away with inflating the dollar and exporting it by literally spending it overseas. And that's one of the reasons our jobs go overseas, because it's cheaper to print paper and spend it overseas. But the event that I anticipate is that people will get tired of this, and they are starting to, and that's why the dollar's been slipping significantly.
You don't mean like you and me, you mean foreign countries.
They're involved, but of course it's important to us, because when they start buying these, buying our dollars and our treasury bills less so, and our housing securities, I mean, China owns a huge amount of housing securities. When they start selling those, which they have, our dollar has to go down. When our dollar goes down, prices have to go up. When prices go up, the standard of living goes down, and prices never go up uniformly. And the one thing that you talk about a lot is why are we putting this on the backs of the poor? It's because their income never keeps up with the prices. If all prices went up evenly and salaries went up evenly, it wouldn't be a big deal, but that's not the way inflation works. Some people get richer. Wall Street can get richer, the poor get poorer. There is an elimination ultimately of the middle class with runaway inflation, and the rich can benefit, certainly in the early stages. When a political crisis comes, then of course everybody is threatened, and that's what I fear is coming, because this dollar bubble has essentially been building for 35 years. It's worldwide. It's never happened before. We've had fiat money and inflation before, but it's usually more localized. But this time, because the dollar was the reserve currency of the world, it's a much, much bigger bubble, and we're seeing it coming apart. And that's why I think we're on the verge, if not in the very early stages, of a gigantic financial crisis.
What does that mean to you? Because people say that, and then I've heard gigantic. We're talking 70s stagflation. To me, that's not a gigantic. Gigantic to me is the Great Depression.
Right. I think if we do the wrong things, it'll be a Great Depression and will last a long time.
Okay, wait a minute. What are the wrong things? Because it seems to me we're doing all the wrong things. Yeah. We have entitlements now the size of the GDP of Canada. That's Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security equal the GDP of Canada. And we're still talking about stacking more on top.
Now, we are doing the wrong things, and that means the cleansing of the system, the corrections, the liquidation of debt, and the liquidation of the malinvestment is not going to come, because we prop everything up. And for that reason, it's going to last a long, long time. If you allowed the liquidation, you'd have a short depression like we had in 1921. By the 1930s, we didn't believe that that was proper, so both Hoover and Roosevelt prolonged it by propping everything up. And this one, the bubble, really has lasted, although we've had some ups and downs in the last 35 years. On the big downturn, as long as we make this effort to prop everything up and all the bad debt, it could go on for decades.
Are you worried at all, Congressman? I mean, I've been to your state. I think Texas is a bubbling cauldron, quite honestly, with everything that's going on. And Texans understand a republic. They're not going to take it much longer. We seem to be following, the world seems to be okay with this new system of government that Russia is doing, which is a very strong government, a very strong leader, and then in bed with their big corporations and screw the little person. It's working out for Russia right now, but it's not going to for long. It seems to me like we're going then down that road, which is frightening, and at the same time, you've got, for instance, the anarchists that said today to the DNC, you pay us $50 million or we're gonna destroy your convention. You've got crazies all around us.
Yeah, and I think we are going in the wrong direction, because after the end of the Cold War, we had an opportunity to, enlighten the world and teach them about free markets. But even with the rhetoric, there's no evidence that the free market has been solidified. What we have is a corporatism, and corporatism is another name for fascism, where if you look at the military-industrial complex, but we have a medical-industrial complex too. The medical profession drives, the drug companies, the HMO drive the medical profession, as well as the banking industrial complex. The bankers are in bed with the Federal Reserve, and the politicians are involved with all of those.
Yeah.
So we're moving at this rate. We're more likely to have a fascist system rather than a communist system, but that's why we have to emphasize personal liberty, what our traditions have been all about, sound money and limited government. We have at least a record that we should look to.
Congressman, thank you very much. Thanks for speaking out and keep fighting up the good fight down there in Washington. I don't know how you do it every day.
Thank you.
Coming up.